Hello friends, today's topic is storytime still unemployed. Let's rant.
Get ready with me to go pick up my stuff from the office after I got fired yesterday. So I was at work when one of my coworkers came up to my cubicle and told me the news about Charlie being attacked last week. We had a discussion about it at my desk where we were, one, speculating if it was real or not. And then our next point was, well, he had extremely controversial opinions and was very vocal about those things. He was not a politician, but he was very political, and therefore he had a lot of people riled up, understandably. Obviously, this news was shocking, but not surprising, if that makes sense. So we talk amongst ourselves about how his stance on gun violence and how he was of the opinion that the deaths of children, minorities were worthy and necessary in order to protect the Second Amendment. We were commenting on the irony of how he was then a victim of the same type of violence that he was saying was necessary and that he was perpetuating the rhetoric for. So I'm an opinionated young lady, and I decide to comment on this online. Again, just noting how it's very ironic that this man would be attacked in this manner, but that it is no surprise that the face of political violence, whether he was a politician himself or not, becoming a victim of the political violence that he advocated for should not be surprising to anybody. In no way am I celebrating or condoning what was done to him. Was it a politically or morally neutral take that I had? No, it's very clear which direction I lean politically. However, I'm of the opinion that I didn't get on here and say anything like hyper-inflammatory, nor did I have a tone of celebrating anything, not in this house. So I post this video in the morning as I'm getting ready for work. I go about my day, the next day rolls around. Imagine my surprise when I hear rumors that people are talking about me and are sharing my video that someone saw on my account. A friend in the office gives me a heads up about this, and I assume that at some point my boss is going to pull me aside for a talk, but at this point no one has confronted me directly. So I'm sitting at my desk doing my work, and suddenly I hear my own voice playing full blast from my coworker's cubicle directly across from me, and it's the intro of my video, obviously, where I was commenting on the situation from the day before. And I was like, oh, what's that I hear? And she was like, oh my god, I have no idea, like I just opened my phone and like the internet was pulled up, and I was like, that's interesting. And she made a little comment where she was like, don't open your texts at work, kids, or like something like that. And so obviously someone has like texted her this video of me, and she like pulled it up. But then after I tell my boss like, hey, I'm not sure if you just heard that, he pulls her aside, and then afterwards I go in to talk to him, and come to find out that this coworker had actually heard my friend and I talking at my desk the day before, and she was, I guess, uncomfortable with the tone that we had taken about discussing this, the attack when it happened. And so I'm not sure if she went directly to my boss or if she went directly above him to HR, but either way, we had been informally reported for, like making her uncomfortable just from the discussion that we were having about the incident. So then this coworker and I, my boss, and the director of HR book a conference room, and I will fully agree that I should not have been having those discussions at work. We obviously are left-leaning, and also let's note that the company that I work for identifies itself as a conservative, faith-based company, so I was already the queer-shaped peg trying to fit itself into the conservative hole, if you know what I mean. So I already knew that I was in enemy territory. My coworkers and I have all been very tolerant of each other's opinions and viewpoints. I feel like I was good friends with them, and I can have those conversations and understand that we can have different opinions on these things and still get along, especially when it comes to like a work relationship, when it's strictly professional up to a certain point. So she pulls us into a meeting, and my coworker expresses like, I just found that very distasteful. She identifies as someone who's very patriotic. Her husband is a veteran, etc., etc. And I was like, I absolutely understand. I was like, you are completely correct. We should have not been having that conversation at work. I can't argue with that. I was like, however, I do take issue with, a video that I make on my personal time being passed around and like gossiped about, when I, again, feel like I shared like a pretty reasonable take on the situation. And there were tears from both sides, and we apologized to each other. Me, of course, for having that discussion at work in the first place. My boss and the HR representative said this themselves, they cannot and do not want to control what I say. But, there is kind of a funny line between if and when I represent the company off company time, and of course what I post on social media, not to mention the unspoken rule of at-will employment in my state. So they could say, I don't like your hair color, I think your balayage is ugly, you're fired. They can do whatever they want. However, before the discussion ends, I do make it a point to say that I've endured a lot of insensitive jokes and casual conversation coming from the other side of the fence at work. Again, with this being a very conservative company, they made their opinions very known. And this is anyone from, people who are at my level as like a tier 1 entry-level employee, or from directors, executives. They all made their opinions very clear. And these things were brought up in casual conversation, and in my opinion, were inflammatory and were insensitive and disrespectful. But you know what I did? I kept my mouth shut. And maybe that's on me, but I'm not the one who's trying to stir up personal political stuff at work. I understand that I'm in the minority here with this group of people, and so I'm not trying to cause issues. I probably should have taken those experiences as a lesson to make sure that I did not have the conversations that my coworker and I were having within earshot. Should have kept that out of the office. I take full responsibility for that. I understand where everyone's coming from. So it's my understanding that we're all moving on from this. Luckily it was the weekend, so we have a couple days to decompress. I come back yesterday on Monday. The vibes are bad. Like, I was getting iced out by the woman who reported me, and then also one of our other coworkers who she was pretty close with. My boss is acting completely normal. I'm just feeling pretty uncomfortable, and so I request to work from home for the rest of the day, in which my boss agrees to because he's very kind. And I have a feeling that he kind of thought this was coming, and so he was like, sure, go rest at home while you still can, RIP. So of course my coworkers and I, who are close at work, we're buzzing, trying to figure out, what's going on, if anyone's going to get fired, because I was under the impression when the conversation with HR closed that we were going to move on from this. It was water under the bridge. We came to an understanding. But again, things were just like not feeling so great. And so I end up working the rest of the day from home. I'm just like minding my business, doing my thing. And then my coworkers notice that some of the executives and directors are moving kind of funny. So they all get in a conference room, and we're nosy. And so we start kind of like fishing around trying to figure out what they're in there for. And then right as we're messaging about this, I get a phone call on my personal phone from my boss. And he says, hey girl, hey, I'm in here with the execs and HR. We just want to talk to you real quick. And I was like, period. And so the HR director is like, hey girl, so she didn't specifically cite the incident that had happened last week. What she did say was, we were able to find your TikTok account and we reviewed your videos, and we've decided that you violated our company social media policy because I did post videos while I was like on the premises, like at work. And she was like, this goes against our social media policy. And so in light of this, we've just decided to go ahead and terminate, your employment here. And I was like, absolutely. I completely understand. Of course I had kind of seen this coming. And so I was like, thank you for your time. I completely understand. We talk about when I can come get the rest of my stuff from the office. And so I'm doing that today. And of course I immediately tell my coworkers, and I'm like, hey guys, maybe watch out. This just happened. And of course they absolutely lose their minds. But again, the executive team and human resources citing that they were firing me specifically for my social media content and the fact that I had filmed videos like on the property and during company time, even though, I was on my break, et cetera, et cetera. I'm assuming that anyone else who was directly involved with me or the conversation that was reported is safe, because that has nothing to do with the videos that I posted. My other coworkers and my friends at work were not going home and posting things on the internet. They were obviously being very mindful of those things. I knew the consequences of what I was sharing online, and I essentially have decided that I'm a person, I'm a girly before I'm anything else, and I'm going to share my opinion online if I want to. And that's that. So it was going to give one way or another. So at this point, I understand that I don't really have a leg to stand on legally. How am I trying to say this? I guess when it comes to, trying to contact an attorney and see if there's any substance here for like a wrongful termination suit or discrimination or anything like that, I'm not going to be pursuing that too hard because, again, my goal here isn't to, like, I think to me, it just feels wrong to not seek some kind of professional opinion in this case, just in case there is something there. And not to say that I want to prioritize, dragging this corporation through the mud or stirring up any nonsense. Again, I just feel very strongly about the fact that this is wildly hypocritical. And in my opinion, it is discriminatory. The circumstances here are just absolutely insane. It feels important to me to make it known that this is happening. It's 2025. Social media and politics are influencing every single facet of our life, and that's something that we need to be aware of and that we probably need to think critically about. Again, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that there was a strong possibility that I was going to be gossiped about, that I was going to be written up or disciplined or even fired, which ended up happening. And I'm completely at peace with that because I feel better about the fact that I was able to share my opinion. Sorry. All right, girls, I think we're ready. Yeah, ultimately, I feel good about my situation. Don't necessarily feel good about how things went down, obviously, but I feel relieved. I'm excited, honestly, to be able to dedicate my time to finding a company that fits me and my values better. I'm gonna dedicate a lot more time to my schoolwork and my family and me. And also posting content on here. That's really exciting. So yeah, let's go get our stuff.
Got to get up and move on. Start looking for a new job right away. What do you think about this video? Comment down below and thank you for watching.